So as any casual fan of my channel will tell you, I really like Sonic Unleashed. However, I'm only human at the end of the day, and some of my opinions are quite questionable when it comes to this game. So with that being said, we're going to be going over some of my biggest hot takes regarding Sonic Unleashed in today's video. Let me know your own hot takes down below, and if you want me to make this a mini-series, feel free to let me know. Let's get started. When I say that Arid Sands is my least favourite area in the entire game, you've got to keep in mind that this is Sonic Unleashed we're talking about. There's no bad level in this game, as all of the Act 1 stages are made to an incredibly high quality, day or night. However, unfortunately one has to come in last place, and that for me, well, it's Arid Sands unfortunately. I can't even put it into words why I don't like this stage, it just doesn't hold my attention for very long. If I had to go back and replay any daytime level from Unleashed right now, Arid Sands is definitely the one that I would choose last. Maybe it's because there's not as many interesting set pieces as in stages such as Jungle Joyride and Rooftop Run, and maybe it's the fact that it's one of the shorter daytime levels, but it just doesn't interest me all that much. Also, I understand music is subjective, but this is probably one of the weaker OSTs as far as the daytime stages go. I thought that I was just bad at Arid Sands, but that can't be the case because Eggman Land has some of the most unforgiving level design in the entire game. Yet in my recent livestream I beat Eggman Land in under 15 minutes, so it can't be the difficulty of the stage that I don't like. Especially since Skyscraper Scamper and Jungle Joyride are some of my favourite levels in the entire game. As for Arid Sands Night, fire enemies, like need I say anymore? I actually really enjoy combat with the Werehog, therefore it baffles me that they would fuck that up by introducing an enemy that forces you to not attack them. But the fire isn't even all that damaging, like you can power through it if you truly want to, so it's more of an inconvenience than anything else. That, and it also has pretty forgettable level design. Yeah, I know that this isn't that big of a hot take in 2025, since a lot of people are flocking to defend Unleashed, even when they didn't like it on launch. However, I've always liked Unleashed, and I've always liked the questionable aspects of the game, that being the Werehog. I've never understood why people bash this guy so heavily, even though these same people are the ones who defend the mech shooting and treasure hunting stages in games like Adventure 2. So having a version of Sonic that is based around combat and platforming and somehow calling it a bad thing just never sat right with me. Especially since the Werehog systems are actually built to a very high quality. Like, there's barely any glitches or bugs, the combat is satisfying and there's surprising depth to it. You can customize the characters with the experience system. The level design for the most part is very good, and the nighttime levels also have really good music. Not to mention the fact that the Werehog has become better than ever in 2025 because of the insane mod support that is available for the Werehog, where even if you don't like how the Werehog controls in base, you can introduce new mods to make it control very similarly to games like Yakuza or Devil May Cry. For more information, I'd recommend checking out these videos that I've made, where I go over the Werehog in more detail, as well as recommend a couple of mods for the character. Playing as the Werehog with mods is something that I genuinely look forward to, and it's some of the most fun I've ever had in a Sonic game. However, even without mods, I've always found the Werehog to be a pretty good addition to Sonic Unleashed. Yeah, I understand that music is very subjective, so this one's probably gonna get some pushback, but hey, what can I say? I think this is one of the most remarkable, interesting, and unique soundtracks in the entire series, considering how it handles different cultures around the world, and the fact that there's two different versions of the track for the Werehog and Hedgehog respectively. Like, both songs will have the appropriate instruments to reflect the culture of the location that the stages are based in. However, the Hedgehog's music will generally be faster and more energetic, whereas the Werehog music will generally be slower paced but more atmospheric. There's only so much I can say about this soundtrack, so I'm just gonna play you a couple of songs and see what you think. The Sonic community is very unique as it seems to be subdivided into groups of 3, people who prefer the classic era, the adventure era, and the boost era respectively. So no doubt people are going to take issue with this one. I truly feel like Rooftop Run is the personification of the best level design in the entire series. The attention to detail in this level is insane. From the colours of the different buildings, to the different textures of the road that Sonic runs on, literally everything here is sheer perfection, and the pace is never affected in the slightest. You blaze through the city of Spagonia at sonic speed whilst making tight turns, quick-stepping through the streets of Spagonia, climbing up the giant clock tower, and even racing against Eggman's machines. This entire stage is a fucking blast. Not to mention the stages are really good length, being between 3.5 to 5 minutes long, which is exactly what you want in a Sonic stage. None of that shit from Sonic Forces where the stage only lasts a minute just like a virgin on prom night. No, the Sonic stages in this game, especially Rooftop Run, have length, depth, and substance. Yeah, I probably could have worded that a bit better. The point is Rooftop Run is a phenomenal stage from start to finish, and I feel like there are very few stages in the game that can actually rival it. Like, the only stages in the game that I think come close to surpassing Rooftop Run is Skyscraper Scamper and Jungle Joyride. And it's close, make no mistake, like those stages have grown on me throughout the years. But Rooftop Run is just in a league of its own. Not only is it the best level in Unleashed, but I think it's the best level in the entire fucking series. It is sheer perfection, and there is nothing that I would change about it. But before we move on to by far my spiciest hot take from Sonic Unleashed, I would encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel and consider joining the Discord server where we talk about your favourite characters. Now with that being said, let's get to the hot take that everyone's gonna tear me apart for. The HD version of Dark Gaia has to be the most underrated final boss in the entire fucking series. Everyone sings the praise of the Wii version, yet everyone fails to talk about the merits of the HD version. Not only do I feel like the HD version is underrated, however, I feel like it's better than the Wii version of Dark Gaia, and I also think it's one of the best final bosses in the entire series, right up there with Solaris as well as Metal Overlord. When comparing the Gaia Colossus segments, I think that the Wii version was definitely the better idea in concept. The idea of having a beat-em-up formula with the Gaia Colossus makes perfect sense. After all, the Werehog formula was a beat-em-up, so why not just build on that? It was a cool idea, but the execution was very poor, as you could beat Dark Gaia in a couple of hits as soon as you got the timing down, rendering the first phase of that fight completely pointless. With the HD version, I think the fight with the Gaia Colossus has so much atmosphere, as you're boosting across the Earth's fucking core to reach Dark Gaia, all while he attacks you by throwing rocks as well as his various hyper beams at you. The atmosphere with this version of the Gaia Colossus is fucking insane and never fails to give me goosebumps. However, I will say that once you get to Dark Gaia, it is pretty shit that it's rendered to a QuickTime event, and it's also pretty crap that you have to repeat the phase 3 times. Meaning that I think that there's pros and cons to both versions of the Gaia Colossus encounter, in the same way that I think there's pros and cons for the Sonic speed sections as well. For one, you play all 3 Sonic sections back to back in the Wii version, meaning that not only do you get to play as Sonic for a long period of time, but you also get to experience much more of the music, as the Dark Gaia boss music is very dynamic and there's a lot of elements to it that you don't really get to hear in the HD version because of how many loading screens there are. However, I feel like the HD version is better gameplay-wise, as it makes more sense. Dark Gaia has Light Gaia by the balls, and he is about to charge a hyper beam into Chip's face. Don't make a dirty joke out of that. With Sonic having literal seconds to race against the Gaia Colossus' body in order to reach Dark Gaia, where he can finally do some damage. The atmosphere is a lot more stressful in the HD version, which reflects the urgency of the actual final battle very well, and much better than the Wii version does. I also think that the cutscenes in the HD version are much better. Like when Sonic actually reaches Dark Gaia, he spams the shit out of the homing attack, doing a shit ton of Dark Gaia, and it looks like it causes him great pain. Whereas in the Wii version, he just homing attacks the eyes once, and it just comes across as being very limp and pathetic. Not to mention in the HD version, Dark Gaia actually reacts to Sonic mashing the shit out of the homing attack, as he's in so much pain that he sends the Gaia Colossus flying across the Earth's core, which is a pretty appropriate reaction to getting one's eye smashed in. Why the fuck do you think I have glasses? However, this does result in you having to repeat the Gaia Colossus phase again and again, so it's a double-edged sword, really. Overall, I would say that the HD version of the Sonic segments is definitely better. It's a lot more urgent and fast-paced, and I think that controlling Sonic in the HD version is better than the Wii version. So for me, it has more pros than cons. However, now we get to the phase that everyone's gonna disagree with me on. Perfect Dark Gaia versus Supersonic and the Gaia Colossus. The Wii version has to be better, right? Before we even talk about gameplay, I really hate the premise of the Wii version. Like, it's established throughout the game that Light Gaia and Dark Gaia have been battling for God knows how long, so it really sucks that Perfect Dark Gaia is only fighting Supersonic in a 1v1, and Light Gaia has been left to rot and he just reverts back to his Omochao tutorial role. It completely betrays the message and theming of what this game is trying to present. The idea that Light Gaia and Dark Gaia are perfect equals, the idea that they've been fighting since the planet's first dawn, with neither one being able to get an advantage, with Light Gaia being able to put Dark Gaia to rest, but never truly able to defeat him. Yet when it comes to actually 1v1ing Dark Gaia as Supersonic, the Gaia Colossus is nowhere to be seen. However, when looking at the fight itself, it just feels so hollow. Like, you collect rings to fill up the boost meter in order to charge towards one of Dark Gaia's eyes, dodge all of the rocks and hit the eye, and rinse and repeat 7 times and you win the fight. The main difficulty in this fight comes from collecting rings, as you have such a very small reserve to work with, and Dark Gaia is one of the few characters in the series who can actually damage Supersonic, so the fight definitely keeps you on your toes. However, it's way too fucking easy of a final boss. Dark Gaia's attacks are piss easy to dodge, and the only eye that you'll actively have trouble dealing with is the final one. However, even then, the rocks attack you in the exact same pattern each time, so once you get the timing down, there's basically no challenge to this fight at all. Compare this to the HD version of Dark Gaia, and whilst this fight isn't perfect, not at all, I think it comes closer to being a better final boss. Firstly, the cinematics in this fight are the best in the entire series, and I don't think it comes close. The idea that Supersonic has to race across the outside of this shield at light speed to deal damage to the various tentacles in order to destroy the shield. Meanwhile, in the background, you have 2 colossal titans 1v1ing each other. It's one of the coolest spectacles for me, and beats literally anything in Sonic Frontiers, as far as spectacle goes anyways. However, I like that this phase, just like the previous one, has a degree of urgency to it. Once you reach the shield, it is impossible to regain your health for both the Gaia Colossus as well as Supersonic, meaning that any damage that you take is permanent, meaning that you've got to be careful throughout the entire fight. There's also the fact that you're against the clock, since if the Gaia Colossus gets killed, you instantly lose, meaning that you've got to destroy the shield before Dark Gaia destroys Chip. Not to mention, I also think that Supersonic controls really well in these sections. Like, yeah, he's very difficult to control when you're boosting, however, when you're not boosting and you're just trying to turn him around, he controls really fucking well, much more so than YouTubers will have you believe. Now, I will say that once you finally destroy the shield, the fight is a bit of a letdown, as from there it's just a series of quicktime events, and I will say that mashing the X button 60 times in 10 seconds is one of the worst things in this entire game, and the only aspect of the HD version that I think is legitimately bad. So don't think for a single second that I am saying that this version of Dark Gaia is perfect, because it really isn't. Although Light Gaia landing the killing blow, and following that up with Sonic performing the fatality, is some of the best teamwork I've ever seen in a Sonic game. So maybe the QTEs were worth it just for that alone. Although a cool thing about the cutscenes of Dark Gaia is that it makes the HD version and the Wii version feel equally special. Like, for example, when Dark Gaia is fully defeated, you see that all of his eyes are destroyed with green blood oozing through them, which reflects the Wii version where you systematically destroy his eyes one by one. However, in the HD version, you finish the fight by charging towards Dark Gaia, with the very next cutscene beginning with Sonic headshotting Dark Gaia, making the HD version feel equally special. It's pretty cool how there's 2 completely different versions of the final boss, yet the cutscenes make both of them feel canon and equally special, meaning that at the end of the day it doesn't really matter which version of the fight you prefer, since the game accommodates very well for both of your preferences. Like I said before, this is 100% my biggest hot take regarding Unleashed, but I hope that you agree with my reasoning at the very least. But again, what do you guys think? Let me know down below. Feel free to subscribe to the channel and join the Discord server where we can talk about your favourite Sonic games. Have a great rest of your day, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.